Mariel, hey, congratulations on Promised Land.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's exciting.
It is. It's one of those type of dramas that it's like addicting to watch because you want to know what's going to happen next to the family.
Oh yeah, lots of twists, lots of turns, lots of unexpected villains. It's juicy.
Well, that is true. So tell us what initially drew you to a project like Promised Land.
One of the first things that surprised me when I read the script was that immediately you start in Spanish. And I thought, wow, for a network show to kind of have the boldness to start off in Spanish felt so authentic to me, to be able to take a story about these Mexican immigrants going to the US, trying to find the American dream, and to start in their language. I said, oh, this is good. This is approaching it in the right way. And I was immediately drawn to it. I'm a first generation American. Both my parents immigrated to San Diego from Mexico. And so I thought that just that was such an interesting story. And then when I read Carmen, I was like, oh, this girl is fun. And she is. So
how much could you relate to a person like Carmen, and how much you can't relate?
Well, I definitely didn't grow up with all the privileges that Carmen has. But I do know what it's like to grow up with an immigrant father. I think that she truly had both worlds. She had her American mother and her Mexican father. And in that way, I don't have that experience. I grew up with two very Mexican parents. And so I felt like that was kind of sort of the culture that was passed down on me. But I too, like Carmen, feel kind of like this identity crisis, in the sense that she's not fully Latina. She's also not fully American. And so there is this search for meaning and search for identity and search for holding on to roots while also being in this country. And I think that I had to really sacrifice a lot to get to where I am as an actor. And I think that even though we haven't seen that from Carmen yet, she is about to embark on that journey.
Now, here in the United States, first generation, immigrants, particularly Mexicans, Mexican parents treat their children a little bit differently on this side of the border. They either have them fully immersed into Americanism, or split between cultures. What are some of the stuff that your parents instilled? Obviously, Spanish was very important, because I know a lot of Mexican Americans where their parents didn't even teach them Spanish.
Right. That was something that now, in retrospect, I'm so thankful for, because I wasn't allowed to speak English at home. I was only allowed to speak Spanish, which I think was such a blessing, because, I started my career in Mexico, and I wouldn't have been able to do that if I didn't know Spanish. I was able to act in Spanish language projects. And I think that for them, it was extremely important not to forget where I was from, my roots, my language, and to be proud of that. Back then, I wished we were more American. I wish we were getting invited to the block parties or the barbecues, because I felt like an outsider. I felt like we were the odd family. But now I look back and I'm so proud that they did that. I'm so proud that I got to feel emboldened by my culture. And I think that whether you are assimilated or you're not, it's all done for a purpose. And I think that, you can't really judge, because I'm sure for a lot of people, their biggest concern is making sure that their kids are welcomed and that they're not ostracized. And I totally understand that. And there are some people that have taken that and gone so far and been so successful in that way. I think, you know, my parents definitely wanted me to go to college. And I think that acting veered a little too far away from what they thought success could be. You know, my mom, even till a couple of years ago, was like, but you know, you could go maybe into being a reporter, you know, or like go into broadcaster. You're going to be in front of a camera. That's what you want, right? I'm like, it's a little different, you know? So I think that they always wanted the security of a job for me. But once my mom really saw how passionate I was about this career and how much work I was putting into it, she was like, okay, I'll get behind this boat. And that was really, really special.
So for you, when did the acting bug actually bit you?
Man, I was 5.
Oh.
Yeah, very young. I started doing theater, just school plays, and I loved it. I loved being on stage. I loved the attention. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I loved the attention. I loved the energy that I got when I was on stage. I fed off of that. And I also love to make people laugh. I'm the youngest of 4. And so, you know, I was always trying to make everybody get along, make everybody laugh. And I think that still in a lot of ways is true now. And I don't know, I just loved creating worlds. I love storytelling. I still do. And I was sure of it then. And I'm still sure of it now. That's the one thing that has always been a constant for me. And here I am.
Hey, you know, we're all thankful for that. I mean, no one knows where their paths are. I mean, I started journalism when I lived in San Diego too. So
no way. You lived there? That's awesome. Where did you live?
I lived like around La Jolla, then to Mira Mesa.
Yeah.
So
hell yeah.
I moved around a bunch, and I'm heading back that way because I have siblings living. I have a sister living in Mira Mesa and a brother living in Carlsbad right now. So
nice, amazing. So you head down a lot.
Yeah. So so I am familiar with that you know, that area. But as for like, you know, so when you started acting, when did you come to the decision that you wanted to start your career in Mexico first rather than here?
Honestly, it wasn't even a decision. It was more like, this is the final option, because I had studied in Los Angeles. I had started to look for work here in Los Angeles, but everywhere was no, everywhere was a rejection. I wasn't getting anywhere. And it was a really interesting situation in Mexico where all of a sudden streamers had gone to Latin America. And so now Netflix had offices there, HBO had offices there. So all of a sudden there were like a ton of jobs and not as many actors. And this was back when all you thought of when you thought of Latin American media was telenovelas. And all of a sudden there were scripted series. And so many people would tell me, what are you doing here in LA competing against 5 million people or what have you, when you could be in Mexico actually working because you know Spanish? And I was so against it for the longest time. I was like, I don't want to be in a telenovela. You know, I was just like so judgmental of it. And I finally said, okay, I'm going to give myself 1 year to make it, which is what I gave myself, which was obviously not going to take 1 year. And on that day, I packed my bags, headed to Mexico. And immediately, I mean, it was insane. I started working, and then that gives you the confidence to step into the next room and the discipline and the experience. And ultimately, that's the tools that I needed to cross over into the US. You know, I needed to be confident in my skill. My confidence was in the floor in LA. You hear enough no's, you start to think, I'm probably not good. I'm probably not good. And the fact of the matter is if you don't know anyone in this industry and you're starting off and you're a no name and you don't have credits and you don't have representation, all the odds are against you. So for me, it was just kind of like, you said you wanted to act. Here's a place where you can act. And that's what I tell a lot of actors too. You know, if you want to act, there's a theater in Milwaukee that's hiring, you know? So what is it? Why are you here in LA? Why do you want to be an actor? I think that's one of the biggest fundamental questions that you should ask yourself before you embark on this career, because if you don't want it bad enough, oh, this is going to chew you up and spit you out. It really is. Yeah.
Were you a little bit self-conscious and aware when you were doing you know, Mexican projects since you grew up in America?
Yes. That's actually a very interesting question, because when I first did my big job in Mexico, which was a telenovela, by the way, I struggled so much with the language. I had these long monologues and these tongue twisters, and then I had to get to my mark and then say these lines. And it's one thing growing up with Spanish in your home. It's a very different thing to try and speak it professionally and learn it. And so I struggled with it a lot in the first year. But, you know, I kept practicing and I kept going. But I think that I also struggled with some of the cultural references, some of the cultural jokes. You know, I wasn't really meshing with it. And that's when it's so funny. Over there, I've never felt more American. And over here, I've never felt more Mexican, right? So after a while, like anything, you kind of like get used to it and you go at it and you hone it. But yeah, that was a huge impediment vocally. And, you know, a big thing with an actor is their voice. And I was nervous I was going to get fired, honestly.
No, I think you did well. I think the only you know, Spanish speaking project I've seen you so far was the Crazy for Change.
Oh, you saw that? Oh, that's great.
Oh, I think you're hilarious in that.
Oh, thank you.
It seems like comedy comes very natural for you on that Freaky Friday type of movie.
Oh, thank you. That's so sweet of you. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I mean, I love comedy. I do. I think hopefully, you know, I'll go back to comedy at some point, but I think I try and bring that sort of levity to a lot of the projects that I do. But yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Now, when was it the decision? Obviously, the decision to come back to the States of working on you know, American projects. I know a lot of Mexican actors will try to do that. Some of your co-stars actually is trying to do that. Eugenio Derbez was known trying to do that. When it dawned on you saying, you know what, now I think I'm good enough to be here for American?
You know, funny enough, it's when I decided to turn my back on LA and Hollywood that Hollywood was knocking. I really just released all control and anxiety and disbelief in myself and decided to focus on what was happening, which was my work in Mexico. And there was traction there and I was enjoying it and I was loving what I was doing. And I actually had 2 projects lined up when I got the audition for Promised Land. I did it in my grandma's house in Mexico. I taped in my grandma's house, didn't think a thing of it. I'm not just saying that. I said, this is a great script. I love this character, but probably nothing is going to come from it because that's what I've seen so far. So I did it. And I think that the fact that I just had fun and I wasn't putting any pressure on it and I wasn't living in LA trying to make rent, you know, that when they told me that I got it, I was like, what? I have 2 jobs. Like, what do you mean? And I mean, the tears started coming, and it was in that moment, it wasn't just the job. It was just the affirmation that I was good enough, that I had succeeded in this crazy town, and that all the moving around was worth it, you know? And so then I was like, okay, I guess I'm moving to the US. But it's funny, I wasn't even a member of SAG before Promised Land. You know, Promised Land was quite literally my first job in the US. And man, it was everything. It is everything, you know, so far.
Well, we're thankful for that, for sure.
Aw.
And I do want to mention Carmen. You know, she's such a, I want to say, millennial or post millennial with social media
Mm-hmm.
and personality, which is very funny. It's because it's also very similar to the character Crazy for Change that you actually.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's true. I hadn't even connected them, but they are very similar in that regard. Yeah. Oh yeah, very in tune with what's going on for sure.
Are you like that in real life too? You love social media or not really?
Oh my goodness. I will say this. I love to show sides of myself that maybe you don't see in a role or on TV. And I like to connect with people in that way. And I like to be goofy and I like to try and be real. But there are times where I wish we lived in a world without social media, you know? Because even if I am showing you a side of me that I think you don't know, it's curated, right? I'm being careful of what I am showing you. So, like it or not, that isn't the 100% truth of anyone that we see on social media. So there is that part of it that I don't love, you know? Whereas with storytelling, well, it's a story. It's someone's story. Social media, well, it's supposed to be you. And sometimes I fear that, you know, you're just sharing an image that you want people to see. And even I'm guilty of that. So yes, there are things that I love about it, but there are also things I'm wary of. And I know that I have to have boundaries with, for sure, you know?
Most excellent. Now, sometimes these productions can be deceiving. I am going to go ahead and assume you weren't really in Sonoma for the prom.
Oh, and why would you think that? You're right. You are perceptive. We were not in Sonoma. We actually shot the pilot in Georgia at the only vineyard in all of Georgia. And then we proceeded with the rest of the series in several different vineyards, Agua Dulce, in Thousand Oaks, and we had studios in Santa Clarita as well. So, but they did shoot a lot of the B-roll in Sonoma County. So.
Oh wow.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say it looks beautiful when you're actually watching it, but you know, movie magic, you know, make it seem
movie
like
magic, man. I'll tell you a secret. All the scenes that you see with Carmen laying by the pool, that is not a vineyard in the background. That is all visual effects, and they do a stunning job, in my opinion, to give you that grandiose luxury of the Sandoval's, you know.
So you're saying, you know, the Carmen scenes laying by the pool wasn't as luxurious that we can imagine as
instead of the sun glistening in the vineyards, it's more like the green screen glistening on my tan, you know?
Well, tell us this then. Was at least the food and the wine, was that real? And did you manage to, you know, taste those things?
The food is probably one of the best things that we got to shoot on set. The props people, man, shout out Alicia. Every time we had a scene with the whole family where we had a dinner, we would on purpose not eat at catering because we were like, what's for dinner now? I mean, we would have lamb chops, chile relleno, lobster tail, filet mignon, you name it. And it was delicious. All those scenes where actors are like, oh, I'm not actually going to eat. We were like, no, we're eating. It was so good. And then for the wine, they actually give us an alcohol-free wine. And you can actually get it at Bevmo. It's delicious. and it tastes like real wine, but it doesn't have any sugar or alcohol. And I love it because it actually feels like I'm drinking wine, as opposed to like grape juice, which you have like 3 sips and you're like, I'm done. So that was really, really fun actually. But the food, there was like a charcuterie board in episode 5. Me and Junior were just like filling up our plate. It was so good. Oh,
I know
yeah,
it. I know exactly what you're talking about.
yeah, it's so good. I took like a doggy bag home. It was so good.
So let's talk more about the twists and turns about the show, because for those people who actually follow it, so far, tons of twists, antagonists, murder, even betrayal. But throughout all this, Carmen so far is a very loyal person.
Thank you. Thank you for saying it, because it's usually me who has to say and remind people that Carmen is the most loyal out of all of the siblings. She is. I mean, listen, I was talking about this earlier. When I read the script and I saw that Carmen kisses Michael, for a moment I bought it, because I said, well, yeah, because she puts her neck out for her sister and covers up a possible murder, and then her sister doesn't even let her pitch, this wine. I was like, okay, yeah, maybe she is mad. Maybe she does kiss her husband because she's upset. And then, nope, lo and behold, she's out here saving her sister again. So, yeah, no, she's really loyal. And everyone around her is just out there trying to get the throne. And she's just laughing at people and, underestimated.
Well, that's why we love these type of soaps, because there's always these betrayal and greed and all that kind of stuff. That's probably why telenovelas are so popular.
For sure, we love to see drama. That's why reality shows are so popular too.
Mm-hmm.
We love to see the fighting and the betrayal and the lies and the love. I'm guilty of it. I'm sure you are too.
Now, for a show like Promised Land, one of the things that Promised Land delivers is an all Latin cast and an all Latin story. Television has been trying to push that multiple times. Do you see that there is a struggle on accepting this part of it, possibly through American audiences, or possibly maybe it's through the Latin audiences not accepting it and trying to still stick with the telenovelas?
Interesting. Well, it is a primarily Latin cast. And I will say this, I'm sure it's both American audiences and Latino audiences that might struggle, because I'm sure even for Latinos, it's so new to see themselves represented on TV. They might be used to something else. They might consume different material. I think the burden is on everybody as much as it is on, audience-wise, but I think that's not where the real burden is. I think the real burden is up top, I think we still have a far way to go when it comes to representation, not just for Latinos, but for all minorities. And I think that starts at the top. I think ABC has done a good job in that. They have really made an effort to not just have a primarily Latino cast, but also behind the camera in the writers' room. I think a huge percentage is Latino, and our crew, from our PAs to our catering to our makeup department, And so it's that opening of the doors that makes it possible for people to have more experience, get better, get to the same competitive standard as everybody else, and someone has to start. And I think there's still a long way to go, but I'm happy to say that I'm hopeful it's getting there,
Well, you certainly should be proud for a project something like this. So what's on your wish list now, since you're on this side of the border? to be in more television, more films, more comedies, more dramas? What is it? Maybe
Ooh.
someone you want to work with?
Oh my gosh, yes. I mean, I love directors like Greta Gerwig, the Coen brothers, Paul Thomas Anderson. That's like at the top of my Christmas list. I would love to be on a show like Westworld because I'm a sci-fi nerd. Anything period piece, put me in, put me on a horse, put me on a Western. I would love that. And I also hope to produce a play soon. Get back to theater. I love theater. It's what makes me the most nervous, what challenges me the most. So I think that anything that scares you is probably a good sign that you should be doing it. And I would love to do a movie. So I'm really up for anything. And I just want to do something that I can look at it and not recognize myself. That's my ultimate goal. To really not know who that person is because I've created something completely different from myself. So
Absolutely. People should be calling. And and before I let you go, let's tease the rest of the season. What should we expect?
Woo! For the rest of the season, there will be more betrayal, more love, and a lot more drama, but not in the way that you would expect it. And I can tell you that this season will go out with a bang.
Oh.
Take that how you will.
You're such a tease. Well, hey, thank you very much, Mariel, for speaking to us about Promised Land and about yourself. This is a pleasurable conversation. I really appreciate this.
Oh, thank you so much. I loved our interview. I loved the questions, and I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Hey, no, thank you, and hopefully I will see more of your stuff down the road, and we get to do this again.
Yes, I loved your interview that you did with Ilse Salas.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she's a phenomenal actor. I want to work with her soon someday too. She's great. But yeah, awesome. And thank you for having me.
Hey, thank you. Appreciate it. Next time.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.